Namaste and welcome to the Dream Big Summit, creating a better world for yourself and the planet. Today, I would like to talk to you about the things that I do in life and how I help people, how I have assisted thousands of people reaching their dreams and becoming super luminous helpers and agents of transformation on this planet. So listen up. If you would like to utilize some of these tools, I'll give you actual steps right here, right now, that you can take in the free part of the summit. And then also later on for the All Access Pass people, I will go into depth about some of the magical transformations that you can create when you expand your time, space, consciousness into eternity, and how you can create a better life for yourself and the planet. So, you know, last year, about this time, about not quite a year ago, I was sitting in an interview, being interviewed by Jack Canfield, whom you may know from the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. His book sold 500 million copies. And when he interviewed me, and that show was to be aired then and did air on television on a number of channels, and when he asked me this one question, I want to ask you the same question today. I want you to think with me. I thought it was very pertinent. He asked me if I had a message to my younger self, what would it be? And I thought about it, and I thought, instantly, believe in yourself, dream big. The universe is listening. And he said, God, that sounds like a book title. And I thought, that'll be it. And so that's how the book title was born, Dream Big. And then the universe is listening, which is a magical subtitle. And also the revolution that we're in here in consciousness. And the message that you can take home to everybody is that we live in an interactive universe. Now, in the past, we had all the religions tell us the same thing. Talk to God or the intermediary, the prophet, and there will be answers. Knock and the doors will be open. Ask and you shall be given. But we have to translate sometimes this message into our new modern thinking. So today I'm going to talk to you about the concept of the hologram, the holographic universe, and how scientists are now thinking that we are living in a holographic universe in which the small part affects the large. And it's actually the same teachings as the mystics have had it, except for many years they took it into secrecy because it was suppressed. We are fortunate enough right now to live in a time where we can pass this information out to the public, that you can listen to it here on a summit free of charge or for a nominal fee, having a phenomenal array of speakers who are going to be on here. To name a few, one of my favorite all-time high teachers, Dr. Vern Wolf, who developed holodynamics. He will be on here. We will be speaking and interviewing him in person. Dr. Rod Newton, who developed the course Living from Vision. I'm going to talk to you about that with him. And Suzanne Wagner, who's been a super psychic, actually soloist, ballet star, dancing with Baryshnikov, and then turned psychic, counseling Hollywood stars, and I also go to her. People who share with you techniques and understandings of how this universe is not what we were taught in school, and that's why we have summits, wisdom schools, where we are all pooling our information together. So listen up to all the magical stories, and I want to have you think about what your message would be to your younger self. It doesn't matter how old you are and where you are on the path, but what would your message right now be to a younger part of you? And I'm assuming that you've been through trials and tribulations, and as a matter of fact, a lot of people, and that's what Jack Canfield was going to ask me, he said, well, a lot of people have a turning point in their life. And for a lot of people, that comes due to a lot of hardship. Now, some people come to a summit because they're looking for answers. They're going like, you know, life hasn't worked out, or I'm constantly struggling with the same walls. And we are here to say, keep going, dream big. The universe is listening. Do you know how amazing that is? You say, I want a parking lot, you visualize it, you set up the blueprint in your subconscious and conscious mind, And what do you get if you've trained your mind, if you've learned how to calm the waves of your all everyday consciousness, and if you can go into a higher state and focus your vibratory body for a moment in the middle of being in traffic to a stillness that knows that you're connected to the source, that is when magic happens. That's when the larger, bigger universe can come through you as a vessel and co-create with you. Your eyes, arms, and ears are the eyes, arms, and ears for God. Life is a love affair between you and God. God is through you in itself. You can create a beautiful dance if you want. And if you persist, if you stay with it and take all of your challenges and turn them into opportunities, you will wind up living in the dream of the beauty that you had hoped for and envisioned. Edison didn't give up after, they say 999 experiments trying to get a light bulb. If he had, we might have a different world. Certainly he was, and his light bulbs are certainly what we live with right now. We've built on his research, on his persistence. So what we need to bring to the table is the understanding of the laws of the universe, one of which is the universe is listening. And can you just bear with me and let that digest in your consciousness for a moment? The universe is listening. It's not Google. It's not Amazon through the echo. It's God. You carry a spark of such intense divinity within you that you're hooked up to the motherboard of all. And we can say, God, help me. Or, what do I need to know now? Guide me. Yesterday at this very table, I had a gentleman sitting, a contractor, helping us out with a little project here. And he said, he's now 60, says when he was 36, or was it 34, he was completely drunkard for the last 20 years. He'd been drinking since he was 14. His life was at an end, standstill. Nothing was working. Everything broke apart. His relationship, his work, his mind, his emotions. He was a wreck. Now, that's proverbially what happens to the walking into the wall and going, oh, that hurt. And he broke down. He said, life can't go on. I'm going to quit. It's over. I'm done. I'm young and I'm done. And in the last moment of consciousness where he said, okay, I'm done. I'm quitting. He said, God, help me. And he had such intensity in his demand that from that moment on, something entered into him, a resilience, a strength that said, I'm dry, I'm no longer drinking. He started walking himself out of the condition of being an alcoholic to being a radiant father. He now has a 20-year-old radiant daughter. And instead of getting down on her and being critical like many people are when they hate themselves because they know they're doing the wrong thing, he started because he was doing the right thing. He was hooking up to the center source of the universe, hooked up and said, God, help me. And the universe came in and rushed to help him. Now, he used the Christian concept. He said, Jesus, help me. He was brought up in that framework. Whatever your framework is, the universe there's only one source. There aren't two sources fighting each other. Forget that. That's like child's play. There isn't the fight between good and evil. There is one source that expresses itself, and the quantum foam of reality that we call reality, actually scientists say, blinks off and on 50 billion times a second. 50 billion times a second. That's half the time it's there, half the time it's not there. So if the universe is not there for a second, for a split part of a second, you can enter that stillness, that resilience in yourself and go, God help me, whatever. You can also just say, this is what I dream of. Some people need to run their nose into the wall to say, please help me, or God, give me a hand. And I'm hoping that by you listening to the summit, you will either be encouraged to make that connection voluntarily, or if it's been already really hard and rocky, do it whenever you feel like you really want help. but get on your knees and ask. You don't have to get to the knees. And that's what Jack Canfield realized when he talked to me. Because my mom educated me from early on. She said, follow your dreams. And she taught me to listen to my inner voice. So in my book, Dream Big, The Universe is Listening, I'm writing about my journey to India and all the saints and the amazing miraculous events that happened. But I'm also writing about techniques that I learned later on from such amazing 6-time PhD Dr. Vern Wolf, holodynamics, realizing how the universe is actually a hologram. And that when you train your mind to communicate with the dark and the light, with the 50 billion times on and off, which we interpret as absenteeism of life, we can call that darkness. The absenteeism of life is, for us, it's dark. This blinking on and off creates the quantum foam that gives rise to the entire perceivable reality, whether it's physical, astral, mental, or even subtler within the subconscious mind, reaching to a 0 point. Like if you go to the journey of in your consciousness and you practice meditation, you rise and rise and rise to a higher and finer and finer and finer point until you hit the point where 0 is, where nothing is, where you pop out outside of the allness through the 0 point into eternity. And when you realize that that's where your true home begins to be, then you are the master of time, space, manifestation, thoughts, everything. Sitting once in a lecture with the late astronaut Mitchell, he went to the moon. I was one of the speakers at the Prophets Conference, and he was one of the speakers, so we got to listen to these amazing speakers. He was the founder of Noetic Sciences. He was invited to be part of a think tank 30 years ago. And they said in the interview, in the think tank, they came to realize, they said, thought creates gravity. What that means, thoughts creates gravitational gravitational fields, pull. We might call it later on magnetism. It's the force field that creates thoughts into energy, into manifestation, into form. It starts with the aha, with the idea. But beyond that, you are the creation. Beyond that, you are source. You're part of God, created into form so that within form you can co-create. And in our remembrance of the source, we create the loop to close back in on itself, to have God come through us, look at us, and us looking back at God. And in that moment, we recognize each other. And we see the power of consciousness interacting. And in that moment, we create the absolute miracle of the entrance into the field beyond. And in that entrance beyond the field of duality, within that field lies the beginning of pure consciousness. And from there, you start co-creating with divine will. You're no longer an ego that is saying, groping, for the next Mercedes. If it's a Mercedes, fine. If you need to have millions of dollars, fine. There is no limit to what you can create. I just want to let you know that it's a co-creative process. And it's this divine inspiration where we reach one hand up and it reaches its hand down and we co-create reality. That is the essence of dreaming big. It's not about the ego becoming the biggest thing it can be. So sometimes we think that we need money to make our dreams happen. Let me tell you a story of how I started with my husband. I was 1985, I was 24, and we were laying on a knoll in the mountains in Colorado, and we had decided that we wanted to dream big. We were done with being small, normal people. So So we thought, what if we each had $11 million and we created a scenario where we thought, if we keep going in this direction, it will happen. So we were very convinced. We had a belief it could happen. But in order to make it happen, we also needed to fill in the blank. What will happen if? And what will happen if were ideas of, I would support this person to become popular, this teaching to make it, I would live in this kind of environment, I would be traveling the world, writing books, teaching this, that, and the other. That was the beginning and one of the moments where we sat down to dream big. Now what we noticed is in the months that came afterwards, some of our dreams started manifesting without the $11 million. These people started suddenly hitting it big time. And we're like looking at going, wow, we didn't need to support them, didn't need to give them millions of dollars, simply by our wish in my or our universe for this to happen. It happened. So we can bless the world around us because it's our picture show. You can do that with anything that's either negative or positive. Amplify it. And for you to be able to dream every day, I've created an app. It's called LFV Light, standing for Living from Vision Light. And for everybody listening in until this point, I'm going to give you away my free app. You can click on this link here and download the app. It's a morning guided meditation as well as an evening guided meditation. Because what most people don't do regularly is meditate. What most people need to do more is to take time for themselves, to go inward and to develop the sense of, what do I want today? Where would I be if I were in my ideal self? And so I'm going to guide you every morning about 15 minutes, every evening about that long, through a series of questions with beautiful music and a quiet moment where you can gather your own answers. And then you pre-create the day from the inside out. And if you start doing this for a while, a week, 2 weeks, you will start noticing that your happiness will increase. Your ability to see results will increase. And you will start focusing on what is really important to you. Because all too often we busy our lives with doing all the things that we think we should do. It's time for you to go get in the driver's seat of your life and dream your life into full color. So join me, get that free app, and join me in the next interview part for the All Access Pass for all the people who have bought the access, and I will go into depth and teach you some techniques of what you can do when you encounter blockages. See you on the other side in the next video. Namaste.